What's the worst thing you're likely to find at the school cafeteria?
The school cafeteria?
Yeah.
What?
The food.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we are talking all about survival food.
Dun, dun, dun.
We are going to make it through this, Sharon. Let's talk about it.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.
Sharon, how has your week been?
It's been good.
Has it?
Yeah.
What did you eat this week?
So I went and stocked up on some spices at the spice store that I love,
Penzies, yes.
And we got granulated garlic and it tastes so good. It's just like, almost tastes like fresh. It's different than garlic powder. It's like actual garlic, basically. It's like dried.
So it's just bigger. It's not
bigger
as
chunks of the garlic powder, basically. And we made some garlic bread with our pasta that we had last night. And it was really yummy, but it was really crunchy because we did it with this baguette that we got at the store. And the baguette's like a couple days old.
Okay.
So it was good because you could sop up the sauce and everything. It was super tasty, but I inadvertently sheared off a piece of cement that was on my tooth.
Dang it.
So my mouth feels weird now.
And your tongue is like always touching the spot that doesn't feel right.
Right. So so I hope that cement is edible because I sure did eat that.
And maybe didn't notice it until later.
No, yeah, until I was done eating all of my dinner and I was like, why is my tooth weird? And it took me a couple minutes to figure that out. But what had happened is I have a permanent retainer. Had a permanent retainer and it broke out I don't know, a while ago, a year or two ago. And so I've had this chunk of cement
just attached.
Yeah. So the retainer broke out with all of the cement on one tooth and then I've had the remaining cement on this other tooth. So I've grown used to it and now it's not there and I ate it. I hope that's okay.
I think you're going to be okay. I'm sure you're okay.
I mean, is it food grade? They put it in your mouth. It's
not that big either. Come on. It's going to pass through you.
So I hope that my insides are not torn up and I'm not have internal bleeding or something.
You're going to be fine.
That's what I ate this week. What did you eat this week?
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. Well, we actually went to a fun little neighborhood party and it's one where everybody that loves to Dutch oven.
Oh, nice.
They had like a Dutch oven cook-off type of a thing. And
did you guys participate?
We did. And so I'm going to talk about two things that were brought to this event because the guy that was organizing it kind of joked. He's like, okay, we want everybody to bring stuff. You know, you can bring anything you want, like anything, but definitely, and he was teasing Lee because he mentioned something about, he's like, oh, I'm going to make some tofu. It's like, I'm going to make some tofu. And then, so this guy was just kind of joking like, okay, bring anything except for tofu and anything that's Russian. Cause Lee, he lived in Russia for a little while. So he was just jabbing at Lee. And so Lee was like, well, challenge accepted.
Oh no. What did he make?
So he made, actually, this is probably my favorite type of curry. It's Japanese curry.
Oh,
and
okay.
So Lee's dad lived in Japan for a while and he knows how to make this one dish, this Japanese curry really well. And so Lee decided to do that and he put tofu in that one. So he baked it a little, but it had potatoes and carrots and onions and this kind of sauce, this Japanese curry sauce. And we just brought some rice with it to serve over it. So that was one thing and it was really good.
Did you make that in a Dutch oven?
We didn't technically. We just did it in our stew pot. And so because we're like, we just don't have time to do all of the things. I know we should have, but we just didn't quite have the time. So we just did it on the stovetop. There was another guy that took the challenge. Also, he accepted the challenge and he got tofu and he wrapped it in bacon and smoked it. I'm not exactly sure how he smoked it, but he smoked it and it was dang good. So The
Wow.
2 tofu dishes that were brought to this Dutch oven cook-off, they were pretty awesome. It was pretty funny too.
Moral of the story, if you don't like tofu, don't say a word.
Nope. Because Lee probably would have just made ribs or something.
And now for the main course.
Okay, let's get down to our topic at hand. Survival food, prepper food.
The world is coming to an end food.
Yes. In
What?
our political climate where we are challenging people on Twitter,
Yeah. Oh my
don't
gosh.
do that.
Sheesh.
Please stop.
We had the solar eclipse this
Yes.
week as well. I just want to point that out. And there was a lot of people that was super excited, but also there was a lot of people that were like, it's the end of the world.
Pretty much. We live about 3-ish
Yeah.
hours from the path of totality. So it was going through Idaho, just north of us.
and then Wyoming as well. So, I mean, really, we could have gone there. We didn't end up going.
We didn't either because Ike does not do traffic.
And people I heard were in traffic for something that would have taken them 3 hours to get to.
It was about 9.
It was like 9 to 10.
Yeah, but I did see a lot of online posts of the traffic. And there were people so bumper to bumper on the freeway.
Totally.
But there were people getting out of the cars, dancing, sharing food. It looked like a big party.
It looks like the beginning of La La Land.
Oh.
There's the opening scene with the the cars.
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh,
It's
think
on my list.
it's okay.
Oh, okay.
And then right now, some of our friends in Texas are,
Oh, geez. Hurricane Harvey. And I'm really sorry, you guys.
we're so sorry. If you're probably not even going to listen to this podcast. So we're wishing you well. We are wishing that
We are
everybody's
hoping
safe.
that you're safe.
Yep.
And secure, that your loved ones are safe.
Mm-hmm.
And if you guys are listening to this and your hearts are going out to them, please donate to the American Red Cross.
Yep.
They will be able to help.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to help in those situations. So the topic kind of came up.
Are you prepared?
Are you prepared for crazy
Natural disasters.
Yeah, crazy things that happen or people getting scared?
Mhm.
Really? Right.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, my friend had posted a picture of the Winco in Idaho Falls, and there was no food.
There was no groceries at all.
Well, they had squash, which is funny because squash lasts a long time.
So
that would be smart to get. But there was no milk. There was no nothing except for the squash.
That's funny. So we're going to talk about survival food and what people have used to survive in desperate conditions.
Yeah.
Can I talk first then
Of
about
course.
a couple of things that I found super, super interesting? I know that you have probably heard of this before. It's called hardtack. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I'm not 100% sure on what it is.
Okay, so other names that it can be known by are cabin bread, pilot bread,
Oh, okay.
sea biscuit, sea bread, ship's biscuit, dog biscuits, molar breakers, sheet iron, tooth dullers, and this one's my favorite, worm castles.
I have had it before.
I will tell you later why they call it worm castles. So hardtack is essentially a biscuit or a cracker. It's made from flour, water, and so they put salt into it. And it is hard.
It's dense and gross.
And I've watched a few videos of how you make it from all these different survivalist YouTube channels. I really had a lot of fun.
Survivalist YouTube
Oh, yeah.
channels?
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
get that far.
This is a thing, man.
I saw them pop up in my Google search,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was like, nope.
No,
not
it was
clicking on
it
that.
was so interesting. So really, it really was. So you are going to get some flour and about half of, and we're talking if you're going to just weigh things out. If you're going to do 500 grams of flour, then you're going to do 250 grams of water.
Okay.
So about half of what you
A 1
would.
to
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
2 to 1
2 to 1 ratio. And then some salt into that because some of them don't even have a salt component. The basic hardtack could just be flour and water and that's it. And then you will bake it. The ones that I looked at, I mean, because we have modern day conveniences, but I think other places would be, you put it over a hearth or whatever sort of implementation you had to
Put
bake
it over the fire and hope for the best.
Mhm. So you just bake it basically and you dry it out. And if you were trying to make it really last a long, long time, like the folks that were in the Navy or something like that, those hardtacks were cooked not just the usual 2 to 4 times. It was cooked 6 times, stuck in the oven again to continually dehydrate it so that the water's gone.
Oh.
There is actually quite a long history of this type of biscuit that has been used as a source of food. Egyptian sailors, they would carry a flat millet bread called dahora cake. So something similar to that. And Romans had a biscuit called bucolatum. And then King Richard I of England also, when he went out to fight in the Crusades, he had some sort of biscuit, and it was made with barley, bean flour, and rye. This was definitely...
That actually sounds better than the regular hardtack.
I know, yeah. He's the king, so he got fancy stuff. He got fancy hardtack. Now, this is the thing I didn't quite understand about hardtack was I didn't quite know how they actually ate it. What they would do is make this and then they could stack it. I think they probably just wrapped it into cloth or paper of some sort and it would do pretty well. But I was like, how does one eat it? Because as it's nicknamed, it's called molar breakers or tooth dolers. And you're like, what? Like, how are people supposed to eat these? Because they're not saltine crackers, people. They are harder than saltine crackers. They are a lot harder than saltine crackers. So what ends up happening is a lot of times people would soften these pieces of hardtack and dunk it in their coffee or some other liquid and just eat like that. Once you soften it, you could actually cook it and put it into like anything else that you may have. Like you can make it as part of a skillet meal. So that's another thing. The other thing you could do is you could pulverize it. So back in the day, they would use the butt of their rifle to smash it and pulverize it so that they could use it as a thickener in a soup.
You smash it with the butt of a rifle?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because it's that hard, people.
Gross.
They could make it into a pancake. Like you could just mush it up and make it into a pancake, fry it up. You could have a luxury and add a little bit of brown sugar to it and make it into kind of a pudding.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, fancy. Just the fact that it can stay that long is pretty impressive to me. Now, the only thing that is really tricky, though, is that if you allow the hardtack to soften for whatever reason, because it's humid or you do get some...
Okay. Can it go bad?
Oh, yeah. Weevils. Weevils will start to get into it. So it's
weevils.
I know. So during the Civil War, the American Civil War, this was back in 1860s. So they had these hardtacks that were stored in the Union and the Confederate storehouses. Now, some of these were unfortunately infested with insects because they were not properly stored. And so this is what soldiers would do. They would break up the hardtack, stick it in their coffee, let it soften. All the insects would come to the top, float to the top.
Oh, they would just skim them off.
They would skim them off.
Oh, dear.
And then continue eating. So that is hardtack. And really, it is not that difficult to make. I think that there are some folks out there that have eaten hardtack in one form or the other because of maybe being in the military and maybe those who are survivalists. But I think it's a good way to store energy in a form that doesn't spoil. If you can properly store it, it can stay intact for up to 50 years.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Maybe you should make some
theory.
Hardtack and stick it in your bunker. Yeah? No?
I'm going to say no. I've had it before in an MRE.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was it super dang hard then?
Oh, it was when I was a kid. So I think I remember it being really hard. I don't know. It's been a while, but we've got one here.
Oh.
We've got some hardtack here.
We're going to have some hardtack?
And we'll probably Facebook Live it, you guys.
Oh, dang. I hope there's no weevils in it.
There probably isn't. It looks like it's all sealed.
Okay. Here's hoping. The other thing that I kind of went down this survivalist food
rabbit hole. Rabbit hole. That's why I didn't click on the YouTube videos.
Yeah. I just kept going and I was like, oh, and then I discovered something I think actually makes a lot of sense because I think of hardtack, which is great. It can stay for a long time, but really just only provides you with carbohydrates. And I was like, how do people, like, they need to have some sort of protein. Like, how is that going to work? I was thinking of something like beef jerky, right? That stays pretty decent, but it still has a bit of moisture in it. And if it gets too dehydrated, then you're going to break your teeth on that too. I started looking into other sources of survival food that are protein sources. I discovered this something that I've never even heard of before.
What?
It's called pemmican. Pemmican.
I don't know what that is.
So you've never heard of it before either?
Nope.
Okay. Well, this is fun then. I'm excited. Pemmican is a mixture of fat and protein. That's basically all it is. And it actually this word pemmican comes from the Cree word. And Cree is a group of Native Americans that were up in Canada. They're kind of related to the Algonquin. And it basically derives from the word pimmy, which means fat or grease. I'm going to tell you exactly what it really is. It's just a mixture of fat and protein. And occasionally it will have some fruit, some dried fruit, whether it's cranberries or I didn't know that this was a berry.
Meat fruit cake.
Yes.
A meat cake.
Yes, it is kind of a meat cake. So you could have cranberries, Saskatoon berries, some other types of berries, blueberries, cherries, chokeberries, and currants can be used, but those were probably only used in ceremonies or in weddings. So they were special, those types of berries and stuff. Generally, it was meat, and it was lean meat. And then you have to get some tallow or some of that animal fat to get your grease portion of it. I did watch a video
on how it was made.
Yeah, on how it was made. So in the olden days, what would happen is that the meat would be sliced really thin, and then you kind of create this like pyramid tent pole type thing, and you hang your meat over a fire and you just let it dry until it is hard and really dehydrated. And then you will take your meat and grind it up. So smash it with a rock until you get it into a good, as ground up as possible. Powder like is what they're hoping for. I should have mentioned that the lean meat usually came in the form of buffalo, moose, deer, elk, because that's
game.
That's what they could get. After you grind that up, you take some melted fat. So you're going to get the tallow and then you're going to mix it together. And occasionally if you have dried fruits, so those blueberries or the
Saskatoon
you're
making like
berries.
a paste with this dried, pulverized meat and the fat. And any berry.
Yep. And then you put those together and then you're going to pack it. Back in the day, they would pack it in rawhide bags for storage and you could store it up to 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Which, if you think about it,
so they're
protein,
not cooking it at all after they're making it.
That was the way they stored it, but they did sometimes eat it raw, and some people reported that it is not the tastiest.
I would imagine.
You have to have a palate for it, I guess.
Okay.
You could boil it into a stew called rhubarb. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Oh, all right.
Rhubarb. I don't know. And you could do the pemmican and you'll add water to it and some flour. And if you're lucky enough to find some like wild onions or some potatoes or something like that, you could put that in and you would get
a whole meal.
Yeah. A fancy meal that has protein in it. You could have some carbohydrates from the potatoes. Hopefully you have something like that. The other thing you could do is you could make it into a rashad. You can cook it into a frying pan and toss in some onions or potatoes. So kind of like a skillet.
Okay.
I would say.
Mm-hmm.
These pemmicans were very vital because the people that were living in Canada, think about it.
It's cold.
It's cold. And you don't have very long in the summertime to do hunting and like live off of that. So they needed some sustenance while they were doing what they needed to do when it was warm enough to do what they needed to do. They would trade. Pemmican was a traded good. There's quite a history. I don't know anything about Canadian history, so I apologize to any of our Canadian listeners. I would love to know a little bit more about the Pemmican War.
Really?
Yeah, because there was a Pemmican proclamation made that disallowed or forbade the export of pemmican from the Red River Colony, and that caused quite a stir. That was in 1814. So
wow.
I'm kind of curious to know if anybody knows anything about that. So the prepper guy that I watched make it, he did do it. He just did it in his oven. He cut his beef really thin, dehydrated it. Mm-hmm. And then when he was done with all of that, he just put it into his blender, shredded it up so it was a nice powder. He got his tallow.
Lard.
He didn't do lard. He actually did like big chunks of fat that you can get from an animal.
Okay.
Cut them up into bits, simmered them. And then when it's done, then you combine those together. And he did do the berries. He did blueberries. He dehydrated those and same thing, crushed those up. And then he put them into Ziploc baggies and that's how he stored them.
Wow.
He also mentioned a book. It was called Lost Ways about how people survived. I'll put it in the show notes if anybody really wants to know how things were done back in the days. You could basically live off of hardtack and pemmican and you'll be good. Well, and maybe throw in some sauerkraut or something like that so you have vitamin C so you don't get scurvy.
Yeah, nobody wants scurvy.
Nobody wants scurvy. I read an article about how things were stored back in the day and how sauerkraut was one of those things that could prevent scurvy from happening.
Wow.
Good on our forefathers for living.
for surviving.
On
hardtack and
really
pemmican.
Gosh, I don't know if I would be able to, I don't know if I would last.
You would. You just not love your food life.
That's true. This is feeling awfully a lot like our meal replacements episode.
No, this is tastier.
Is it?
Sure.
Hardtack? Really?
That is not tastier. That's about equivalent, maybe. I don't know.
Ugh. So
Definitely harder to make.
Harder to make, yes.
Than a meal replacement.
But I feel like there are definitely better options for us nowadays.
Yeah, there totally are. If you go to like your local sporting goods store, Backpackers Food kind of will fit the bill.
Because that's basically...
That can store for most of it can store for long periods of time. Your granola bars and energy bars and stuff like that. You know, they eat a lot of dehydrated food or a lot of canned food.
And those store for a year or so or more.
Yeah, it depends.
Depends on what it is. So I do think that how those came about is very interesting. Patents were involved and the military was involved.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like our canning and preserving episode.
Yeah, the military is always involved.
Yeah. Speaking of the military, MREs.
Oh, yeah.
Have you had an MRE before?
You know, I don't think I've had an official like military grade one before.
Yeah.
I've had the backpackers food stuff, but that's it.
Yeah. So when I was little, we would go to our cousin's house and they had a ton of kids and my uncle was in the military and, you know, he would send my mom and my aunt off and, you know, go shopping, go do whatever. And I'll take the kids this Saturday afternoon, you know, Saturday morning, whatever. And he'd put us to work in the garden and the yard and inside and whatever. And, you know, kind of do a favor for my aunt and have the whole house, you know, spick and span by the time she gets home, that kind of thing. And he'd also feed us lunch from an MRE. And so back, this was, you know, I'll date myself here. This was in the 80s. And so earlier 80s. And there weren't as many options for the MRE back then.
Yeah.
Weren't as many flavor options. The way that we got to choose which MRE we wanted to eat for lunch, because my uncle didn't really cook. And he's like, oh, well, you know, we can have these MREs.
Did he just have MREs just laying around or what?
Yeah, that was like part of their food storage.
Oh, okay.
They had a big family. They usually had some food storage and things like that for emergencies and that kind of thing. So they had all these MREs. And I think he got them somehow from work or got a discount on base if you purchased them. I don't know. So the way that you got to choose your MRE, that was by seniority. So he went oldest to youngest child.
Oh.
And so I was on the younger end.
Yeah.
And so I usually ended up with the Salisbury steak.
I like Salisbury steak.
No.
Nope.
Not
this
in
one.
This form. It was not awesome.
In those typical MREs back in the day, like you said, in the 80s, was it all like dehydrated food that you would
dehydrated. So now they have like warmers and stuff. Like you can actually heat it up. I think we would heat it sometimes. I think we had like a little sterno can or something like that. We would heat it sometimes on, but not always. It kind of depended on what you were eating.
Yeah.
So the chicken was a little bit more edible than the Salisbury steak, but the older kids got that. So I don't really know what that tasted
You're like, who knows?
Because nobody was going to give me a bite of theirs. But the MREs, they kind of have their base, like when we talked about our canning and preserving episode, like the military needs a way to feed the troops. And so the meals ready to eat, that's what MRE stands for, kind of evolved over time.
Oh, it's called meals ready to eat?
Yeah, that's what the MRE stands for.
And I think the M started for military. Just kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
Showing my ignorance. Sorry about that.
So the MRE is a lighter replacement for the canned MCI, which was the meal combat individual ration.
Oh, well, that makes sense because the can itself can be heavy. Okay.
So in 1963, the Department of Defense began developing the MREs. And at that time, like there was a modern food preparation came into play with that MRE, and so did packaging. In 1966, they had the LRP, the long range patrol ration. And so that was a dehydrated meal stored in a waterproof canvas pouch.
Okay. What year was that?
1966.
Okay.
So they had like these different, it kind of depended what type of a ration you got for where you were at. They had like jungle rations, these long range patrol rations. as MREs developed over time in the 70s and into the 80s and 90s, there's certain requirements for the MRE now that it needs to be able to, like for storage reasons and things like that, it needs to be able to be stored at hot temperatures.
Oh yeah, like desert conditions, basically.
So now you've got about 24 entree options for the MREs, which is like kind of cool.
Well, that's good. Variety wise,
it's a lot better than it used to be. There used to be, I think it was like less than 10 or something.
That is not very.
It's like it's really limited. But they have to be able to withstand parachute drops of about 1,250 feet.
Oh yeah.
Or a non-parachute drop of about 100 feet. So like if it drops and it's not going to explode once it hits the ground.
Oh, dude.
It's not going to be damaged or dented up too much or scraped up where you can't, like, it's got to be able to withstand an impact.
That is so fun. I just think of like when I was in junior high and you had to do that, like make sure your egg. It's basically that somebody had to do that when they were in junior high and they now have to figure out how to keep their MREs from exploding.
Right. So there's different options. Like now there's vegetarian options. There are beverage bags where there didn't used to be. So now you can have like, I think they've had coffee before, but now they have Gatorade and like shake options or energy drink. I shouldn't say Gatorade. I don't know if they have that Gatorade brand, but they have like energy drink options. So you can have an actual drink instead of just water with your MRE.
It's basically a Capri Sun.
Well, right? I don't think it's that tasty.
No. What I'm just saying though, but it's in a pouch. Kind of a thing?
It's a mix. So you have to mix it into something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, they really would send that? That just seems like so much more, but okay, that makes sense.
It's a mix because they have to cut down on space as well. Over time, they've done a lot of studies with these MREs and stuff like that. So each meal provides about 1,200 calories. They're intended.
Wow.
Yeah, because, you need to get some energy, especially when you're in combat and things like that. They've over time discovered that these MCIs, the canned rations, soldiers weren't eating all of those. And they were designed, I think, for like a whole day's worth or something. It was like something like 4,000 calories. And they would notice that they weren't eating all of their portion. And so they discovered, people don't like to eat what doesn't taste good. So they've improved like textures and flavors over time. They've also discovered that people won't eat it cold.
Yes.
So now your MREs come with a heating device.
Yes.
Which I think you have some information about how that works.
Yeah, it's a fun time. It's just a simple science experiment. But so there is a patent for this particular, I guess they're called, let me just make sure I know what the name of it's called. It's a flameless ration heater or an FRH. And so the basic chemical reaction is it's magnesium plus water changes over into magnesium hydroxide and then H2 gas and then heat. It's an exothermic reaction. So there's something it's basically putting out heat in order to warm up your food. And so the magnesium is getting oxidized and it's accelerated by they do add some salt and a small amount of iron, which acts like a catalyst to help move the reaction along, because oxidization, like, when iron rusts, that's oxidization. So these things are the salt water and the iron are there to kind of speed things up so that you basically heat up your thing up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit in 10 minutes.
Wow.
I know, it's pretty fast. So
that's pretty impressive.
I like, good on you engineers and chemists that figured out that making that little packet. I think it was really quite smart because warm food is a morale booster.
It is. So is fresh food.
Yes.
So MREs, when you read about them and stuff like that, they say that, they're only meant to be for about 3 weeks. Like you'd only be eating MREs for about 3 weeks at a time. The assumption is that your different military logistics units would be able to establish food drop points where they can get you some fresh food, establish a chow hall, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Wherever you're stationed. That's not always true.
Yeah, I think that would be difficult in
certain circumstances. So if you ask anyone in the military, who's been maybe deployed into combat, they will tell you that they've eaten them for months and months.
24
flavors for months and months.
For months and months. That is depressing.
So yeah, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
A bit. So they have spruced up the MRE today where there's different parts of your entree. So you have your main dish, and for that morale, because sometimes you're eating them for months and months, they'll usually put a dessert in there, like candy.
Oh yeah,
and it's like real candy, like Skittles or M&Ms.
M&Ms. I've heard that's how M&Ms kind of got their start.
Cookies.
Oh, cookies.
Yeah. So that's kind of exciting. So they can kind of feel like real people.
Yeah.
Not that they don't feel like real people, but it's just,
it's a different environment.
Eating these things day after day and things like that. It's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It is.
So I went with Ike to the Army Navy store the other day and we got an MRE for us to try. So you guys stay tuned for our Facebook Live.
Yes.
We're going to eat an MRE. He highly recommended the lemon pound cake. So I got a separate thing with a lemon pound cake.
So was it a dehydrated piece of lemon pound cake? Is that
we'll find out.
Okay.
We will find out.
Okay. I'm excited. I'm a little worried too.
So yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk about is natural disasters and having your own supply. So when I was a kid, small, growing up in California at that time, we were in a lot of earthquakes.
Yeah.
Then when we moved to the South, we were in a lot of tornadoes.
Yeah.
And tropical storms. Right when so we lived a little bit inland. And so right when the hurricanes would turn to a tropical storm, that's right where we lived, basically.
So you were hit with a lot of... Okay.
Yeah. So I've been in earthquakes, tornadoes, storms, flooding, where you've been stranded, kind of a thing. Our house thankfully never flooded, but our streets and neighborhood certainly would. And so we would be stranded because we didn't, we had neighbors that had boats. So they could get out.
And they could come get you if you needed.
Right. So if you needed emergency assistance, that kind of thing.
Oh my
or
gosh.
If you needed something urgently in some other part of town, if a store was still open, you could probably get there.
Oh my gosh.
To high ground and then walk. So that happened twice, I think. It was crazy.
I have never, knock on wood, I have never really had all of that before. I mean, we live in Utah. And they always talk about how we're sitting on the big
huge fault
line. And
because
it's just
the Rocky Mountains, that's a big fault line.
Yeah. And so basically it's a matter of time is what they keep telling us.
Mm-hmm.
So knock on wood.
Yeah. So when I was in California, when I was very little, we had, I think my parents were given by somebody a huge food storage supply. So we had rice and dehydrated beans and things like that in these big 50-pound bags and stuff. Yeah. And we kept it in this closet under the stairs, and we never touched it. We never used it.
Yeah.
And it was tough to move. And I remember my parents got rid of it when we moved because it was just, we weren't using it.
Yeah.
It just didn't make any sense. And then when we really needed it, because thankfully the earthquakes that we were in, there wasn't really
kind of minor, quote unquote minor.
Where we lived, it was more minor.
Yeah.
So we weren't ever stranded or anything like that. But when we moved to the South, we sure did need some emergency supplies.
Really?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, a lot more than I've needed them ever as an adult.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So we had 72-hour kits.
Yes.
So if you go to ready.gov, .gov, they've got some great ideas for how to prepare for natural disasters should you ever need to be prepared. 72-hour kit, so that's designed to keep you safe and alive for 3 days.
Yeah. So hopefully you can find additional help or resources in those 3 days.
Exactly. Or, the grid comes back up, that type of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So water is a huge component. You need about 1 gallon of water per person per day. If you live in a really hot climate or a really high elevation,
which is us,
you would want to increase that to about 1.5 gallons. Or if you have somebody in your family who is chronically ill,
right,
elderly, or children, they'll sometimes drink a lot more water. So you would increase that to 1.5 gallons as well. And it's thought that half of that gallon would be for cooking and hygiene, and the other half would be for drinking.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So you're not going to drink 1 gallon a day necessarily.
Right. You're just using, you would definitely need some things for hygiene, I think.
Right. You would want food. So about a 3-day supply of non-perishable food. That can be energy bars, granola, canned goods. You need utensils for that food. So plates, napkins, forks, can openers.
I know, can openers. I think people forget that.
Yeah. Things that you need for the food. Something to cook it on, like a camp stove, if that's necessary.
And gas, appropriate, like propane or whatever you need.
Some butane fuel for your camp stove, whatever. You need a hand crank radio, like a weather radio, or battery powered, but you'll need lots of extra batteries if you're going to have a flashlight that needs batteries as well. You can get hand crank flashlights too.
Oh yeah, we have those.
First aid kit, some type of a whistle or a signal for help. Different types of tools. So if you need to turn off your utilities, you need to have wrench or pliers handy. Okay. Moist towelettes and garbage bags. Yeah. So you can, and paper supplies, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, to keep up sanitation.
Yes. Maybe
some dust masks, local maps, and if you have it, you'll want a backup battery for your cell phone.
If you can do that.
Yeah, if that's...
There's...
Usually cell phone service goes down though.
Yeah, so you probably won't be able to.
Depend on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of... We actually threw in some walkie-talkies into our thing so we could just have some short-range communication if we were needing to go out and about to look for things. So
yeah, ready.gov has a lot of really good ideas like personal hygiene and medication items.
Yeah.
Also, if you are a pet owner...
Oh, yes.
Don't forget about your other household members.
Yeah.
Pet food, crates, that kind of thing.
Oh,
yeah. Don't forget your pet.
Because that is...
Don't just plan to leave your pet either.
Yeah, because
that's not cool.
That's sad.
You need
but
to
unfortunately, that sometimes happens.
Unfortunately, that sometimes happens. And unfortunately, you can't always get to them for whatever reason, depending on your circumstance. But have emergency plans in place, evacuation plans in place, and
just talk about it.
Yeah.
So one thing I learned really quickly, we are told to plan for these kind of emergencies and stuff like that. And one of my friends who is she's a super prepper actually, but she's like, you know what? You need to have a 72-hour kit in all the points that you would be found. So in your, not just in your house.
In your car.
She has one in her car. She has one at work and she has one at home. So she can anytime, because the natural disaster is not always going to happen when you're at home.
Exactly.
There's a really good chance it's going to happen when I'm at work.
Yeah. So we at work, we have a disaster committee for our office, for our building that we work in. And between our teams, the different teams on the different floors of the building and stuff like that, we more or less have 72-hour kits for each
that's
team.
Good. That's good.
So it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So talk about it with your coworkers, talk about it with your family, keep some supplies in your car just in case, if you can.
Yeah. I brought a bunch of water to work one day, and, just bottles of water, and just stuck it in under my desk, and it just lives there just in case.
Yeah.
You need anything.
That was another thing I wanted to talk about was water. So bottled water is one of the easiest ways to
be prepared, right?
To be prepared and to store water. Storing water is can be tricky because a lot of preppers use these 55-gallon drums.
Yeah.
And they'll put them in their garage or outside their house or something like that. But you need to...
You just need to change it out, don't you?
You need to change it out sometimes. You need to check on it. So long-term water storage solutions, those drums do keep well, but you need to have the proper hoses, like a drinkable hose, not just a regular hose. There's a difference. So I wanted to kind of talk about water storage. So store-bought bottled water is one of the easiest ways. Like I said, it's pre-packaged, it's clean, it's well sealed, and it's already in a food-grade plastic container.
Right.
But if you expose it to constant light, even though water doesn't really necessarily have an expiration date, if it is exposed to a lot of light, mold and algae can grow in it.
Oh.
So you want to make sure that your bottled water is intact. It's not banged up or scratched up. And usually you're going to want to store that in a cool, dark place.
Okay. So probably not storing some in your car. How does that work?
Yeah, it might be a little bit difficult. You'll want to change that out.
Okay. Because I know I have some in my car.
Yeah. But I've got an option for that.
Okay.
If that isn't feasible for you. So you've seen probably some movies and things like that wherein the big ones coming, people fill up their bathtub.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because your bathtub will store about 100 gallons of water.
Oh, nice.
However, your bathtub, I don't know about you, but I don't know if you necessarily want to drink out of your bathtub. When's the last time you cleaned your tub?
Actually, it was just last week, so we're good.
Did you clean it with a harsh cleanser?
Vinegar and Dawn.
Okay.
We did that little
good.
combo.
It's probably good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. There's,
I
have
so
used
if you're
harsh
using
cleansers before.
bleach or Comet or something like that, and you're like, oh, well, my bathtub is spick and span. I just cleaned it today. Well, you may not want to drink that water necessarily. So I found this thing called the water bob, and it's like a liner for your bathtub.
Oh.
And the bathtub water too, like all the top surface, I mean, the water is exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's because it's not in an actual container.
Right.
It's
going
gonna
to collect anything that's in the air.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
So depending on your circumstance, you are not going to want that to happen. So you can get this thing called a water bob, and it will line your bathtub and seal the top too.
Nice.
So you can fill it, and then it's got a good seal on it. So you can just store the water in your bathtub.
Nice. 100 gallons. That's pretty good. Okay.
Yeah.
Making mental notes.
Yeah. So basically it's just a giant heavy duty plastic bag that holds it, and it's got like an access point, that kind of thing. So it's pretty cool. So the water barrels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people will say don't store your plastic bottles on the cement, like the floor of your garage and things like that. Depending on how hot that cement gets, you could potentially have a chemical reaction with the plastic.
Yeah.
Which can contaminate your water.
Right.
Water is good for forever as long as it's not contaminated.
Mm-hmm.
There's some prepper sites out there that say store your 55-gallon barrels on a wooden pallet.
Yeah.
Just so you've got like a buffer. I couldn't find a lot of scientific evidence of that chemical reaction with the plastic.
Well, think about it. Some of those...
It seems like there is still that potential.
Yeah. Well, think of it. Like back in the day, some different types of plastics were being used, and like they would say never to put it into like the dishwasher because of the heat.
Right.
Because it would start degrading the plastic.
And it can melt.
And it can melt, and that could affect what the
happened to
food
me.
is coming into contact with, or your water is coming into contact with. So so I think that is definitely possible.
Yeah. So if you cannot store water, you've got a small space perhaps, or don't like the idea necessarily of storing tons of bottled water, or maybe it's in your car, you can use this thing that I love. It's called a life straw.
Yeah, I have one too.
Yeah.
We have one too.
So you can get individual life straws, and these will filter water, but you can also get, I didn't know this, it's called Life Straw Family. And it's lightweight, it's very portable, and it's pretty compact. And it's ideal to purify water while you're car camping at maybe a base camp, if you're camping with groups or in a disaster situation. Yeah. So it'll purify up to 18,000 liters, which is 4,755 gallons of water.
That's a lot, people.
And it removes all the bacteria, protozoa, and viruses. So that means that it gets rid of 99.499999% of your E. coli, your rotavirus, your Hep A, your Giardia, and your Cryptosporidium.
Which is good.
And other things.
It's not necessarily going to remove sediment.
Yeah, it does reduce the turbidity, which is the muddiness.
You're right.
But it doesn't necessarily remove sediment.
Yeah. But it will take care of the things that are going to make you really sick and may kill you.
Yeah. It is easy to use. It's BPA and chemical free. It requires no power, so no batteries or replacement parts. And it exceeds the US EPA drinking water standards. And there's no aftertaste, so it doesn't use iodine or any of those iodinated resin chemicals.
Right. The one that I have, just for people that want to get an idea of what this life straw is, but it really is kind of the shape of a straw, but it's just a wider diameter, I would say. Wouldn't you say?
So you can get that type, which is for like backpackers, or it's good for a 72-hour kit.
Super
good for
compact.
Your car. You can get, they now have these small water bottles for kids with a life straw inside of it. And then there's this life straw family size that it kind of looks like...
Is it
like
almost
a pitcher with a hose.
Oh,
on
okay.
it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's way cool. LifeStraw is also super awesome because they are one of the largest private investors in safe drinking water. So with every purchase you make, one school child in a developing community receives safe drinking water for an entire school year.
Oh, that's cool.
They're doing this in Africa, in India, and they're launching soon in China and Mexico.
That's great.
Yeah, so
Because everybody does deserve
clean water.
Clean water, because that's essential.
They are a wonderful company to support.
Yeah.
And so if you are looking to store water long term, or, think that maybe that's not feasible for me, try a LifeStraw in your 72-hour kit.
That's a great idea.
They've helped so far over 500,000 students receive clean drinking water for a whole year. They've reached over 1,000 schools, and they do follow-up visits.
Oh, great.
So to make sure that their LifeStraws are still working.
Oh.
That these kids, they're monitoring these kids to make sure that they're still healthy. They've got a lot of testimonials from cute kids that say, I don't get fevers anymore.
Oh my gosh. That's
I don't have to lug my
sad
bottle of water from home to school because I have safe drinking water at school now.
Yeah.
And some of them have safe drinking water at home. It's awesome.
That is great. Oh, I would back that up because my sister, she's that girl with the passport tattoo. She does a lot of traveling and stuff like that. And she swears by the LifeStraw. She takes it camping with her. She takes it to other countries because she's all over the place. She traveled a ton. So, and that's what we did for Christmas one year. We got everybody LifeStraws. It was a cool little gift there. So
gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it does. Little reassurance, a little security and insurance. So
yeah. So, but we are a food podcast. So I talked about water.
Yep.
Prepper foods to hoard. There's a lot of prepper blogs, you guys. There's a ton. And it's super fascinating.
It is. I love those kind of, I love prepper stuff because I can it's like a rabbit hole for me. I'm like, yes, I need to do this. I'm gonna die when something happens. So, and Lee always needs to calm me down. It's like, okay, we'll do what we need to do, but we can't have everything be.
We're fairly set, I think, at home because we're campers.
Yeah.
If you're a camper,
you have
half
supplies.
the stuff you already need anyway.
Yeah.
It's the same as when you donate to the food bank. Give them protein, give them macaroni and cheese, canned meat, protein bars, granola bars, things like that. But think of your comfort too.
Yeah.
Oil,
salt,
flavor. And also think of, if you are serious about food storage, think about stuff that you're actually going to use.
Yeah. Because then the thing is,
do you eat cereal a lot?
Yeah.
Store some cereal.
Get some dang cereal. It might be a little stale.
It.
Yeah.
That's the secret to keeping food storage.
Yeah.
And keeping enough is actually stocking your pantry and just rotate everything out.
Yeah. And it's really easy.
It's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. And you can just buy them really cheap whenever those deals come at your grocery store every 6 to 12 weeks, I think.
Yeah. And the case lot sales, that type of thing.
Yeah. This was very fascinating, Sharon, this topic.
Oh, yeah.
Now I feel like I need to go make sure all my 72-hour kit stuff is legit.
I got to learn about ARC 2.
ARC 2?
Okay, you guys. Google ARC 2 shelter. You won't be sorry.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about now.
It's the guy in Canada that buried 42 school buses. He has a 10,000 square foot shelter composed of 42 school buses.
That is a lot. Are they all connected?
Yeah.
What?
There's different patterns and stuff like that.
Totally putting that in the show notes.
It's amazing. And he's been featured on National Geographic, on Penn and Teller. Yeah, it's crazy. And he's prepared to tell people, we have room for your children, but we don't have room for you. That's the nature of life. This is the lifeboat. What?
But it's kind of true. An adult has lived a chunk of life. Let's give the kid a chance to.
Well, and let's preserve Earth type of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
That's crazy. Okay, I'm going to put a note in the show notes about that. A link in the show notes. But I think that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let us know how you prep, people. How are you trying to stay prepared in this in this unstable day and age? Our podcast is brought to you by our awesome and food-loving sponsor, IKEA. So you guys, summer's coming to an end. I think a bunch of you guys already started school and such. So, but did you know the Swedes love their Swedish crayfish parties? This is the end of the year, end of the summer celebration. And they are having a little party at your local IKEA store. So check with them. But ours in our area is going to be Friday, September 15th at your participating store. So it's basically a fun tradition, as you may have heard in our crayfish and crawfish episodes. Those were good. That these are a super fun party. It's an all-you-can-eat crayfish buffet. They also have all these other fun goodies besides just the crayfish, of course. So, and you can bring your entire family, just have a good time. And we're going to be participating in a fun little giveaway, at least at the IKEA Draper. And Sharon can tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Ike and I are going to be living it up at the Swedish Crayfish Festival at IKEA Draper, which is in Utah, while Winter and Lee are living it up in Italy.
Yeah, sorry guys, but I'm a little jealous though. I love crayfish, so
she might bring us back, us as you listeners, back a souvenir for a giveaway.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout.
Yep.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But Ike and I are going to be at the IKEA and Draper on Friday, September 15th. And we are hosting a giveaway with IKEA. So you can get fun IKEA stuff and Hungry Squared merchandise.
Yes, it's going to be so fun.
So see your local IKEA associate for details and seating times.
We'll see you there. Thanks again, IKEA.
Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. It's winter.
This is the segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, food fight, food fight. The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Sharon, do you have this week's question?
I do.
Okay, let's hear it. Is it good?
Yeah, it's funny.
Is it? A funny question. I love funny questions.
Hi, Winter and Sharon. I'm taking a poll and would like your votes.
Oh, I'll vote.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no? This is a hot debate in our house and we'd like you to weigh in. We love the show. Pizza pollers.
Pizza pollers. Okay, pizza pollers. Okay, this is my vote. I'm casting it now. I say yay for pineapple on pizza.
Yay for pineapple on pizza.
Yeah. Can I give you my reasoning?
Yes.
So I was born in Hawaii, people, if you didn't know that. I was born in Hawaii, and the whole pineapple plants are there in the Hawaii.
Yeah, the farms.
And pineapples have always been like a big deal for our family. There just is. And so when we discovered there was a pizza that you can get with pineapple in it, well, that was a no duh. I mean, so yeah, it just reminds me of, I know it's not authentic. Okay. I know I'm going to Italy in a couple of weeks and I know that I'm not going to find that there.
Cristiano told us that Cristiano Criminelli.
Yes.
In our interview back in January of 2017 told us that they put anything on a pizza in Italy because they think it's so American.
Yeah. So
maybe it is authentic.
Maybe it is. I'm okay with the fact that there's pineapple on there. Now, if I'm in Italy and I find it there, though, I might be a little disappointed.
What?
Yeah, because are you finding pineapples in Italy? Really?
Maybe the Pope has a secret stash
of pineapples.
Yes, only pineapples.
Okay.
In the basement, in the crypt of some cathedral, there's pineapples.
Yeah. So, but here in America, I'm all about it. That's probably not my number one favorite pizza, though.
Yeah,
for sure. But I'm okay with it.
Totally okay with it. I will second your vote and say yes for pineapple.
Okay. It's
not my number one choice for topping. My number one choice for topping, I think, is veggies. Mm-hmm. I also like the meatball, as I've talked about previously.
Yes.
I also like barbecue chicken.
Me
with
too.
The barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. But I'm all about pineapple on pizza. That's totally acceptable.
That's totally fine. This is America, people.
Yeah, we put other fruits on pizza too.
Yeah. Why not?
Tomato.
Yeah. Technically a fruit. Botanically speaking, a fruit. Culinarily speaking.
Is avocado a fruit? I think it is.
Yes.
I've had avocado on pizza before.
Yeah. I think it's totally fine. I mean, America is known for its innovativeness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Innovation.
Yeah.
And so why not put a dang pineapple on your pizza?
I think it's good. I've had berries on pizza too.
Oh, you have?
And pears.
Oh, pears.
That is a
Yummy.
lovely topper.
I agree. I concur.
So pineapple, yes.
Pineapple, yes for me too. Hope the poll works out, everybody.
Yeah. Hope you don't hate us now.
Yeah. If you want to write in and tell us that you hate our decisions, okay.
Yes.
Write in.
Please debate. We'll give you the floor and we won't make fun of you.
We will try not to make fun of you.
Oh, all right. We'll try. Thanks for joining us today for our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music.
Please share our podcast with your other food nerdy friends and family. It is just so fun to hang out with you guys. And by the way, we will be doing a few more Facebook Lives in the coming weeks because we enjoy hanging out there. Sometimes it's just fun. So join us there at Hungry Squared Podcast on Facebook. And join us next week for our next episode of Food Nerdery.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.